Today I'm going to show you how to make a cutting of the Chinese money plant, or pepperoni plant. It has a scientific name which I can't pronounce, won't try to, but we all know what I'm talking about. To do this, I have a razor blade, shot glass, rooting hormone, Q-tip, and cinnamon. A mini shot glass solo cup with cuts on the side. We use that as the destination pot so that the soil gets adequately aerated and dry. And I also have some Miracle Grow for cactus, palm, and citrus potting mix, which I found to be a very good soil for the pileas. To make the cutting, we will cut off an offshoot of the plant. I had several plants which weren't having any offshoots or weren't creating little pups that I could cut off. So I achieved this by cutting off the top of it, and after a couple weeks, a few sprouted off. And now I have one that's large enough to sustain itself. As you see, I have one right here, which is the one I'm going to be cutting today. I have a small one growing out of the dirt, which I will cultivate and eventually make a cutting. And I have a smaller one on this far side, which you might not be able to see. I'll give you a closer view of it. So we're going to take the razor blade and cut as close to the source plant as possible so that our cutting has as much room to grow roots as possible. We'll just slice down very carefully. And it cuts very easily, so you don't need to use a lot of force, especially if you're using a new blade. And what results is a nice little cutting. You really want to cut this at an angle to have as much surface area for roots to grow. But it's not that critical. Immediately after making the cutting, we want to make sure that this new wound doesn't cause long-term damage. And so what we'll do is we'll drop our swab into a little bit of water and sprinkle cinnamon onto it. Using cinnamon because it has antifungal properties. You can buy things off the shelf. We're just going to dab it on there. Be good to go. We do that so that we don't open the plant up to disease, because when we make this cutting, we want to make sure that the other smaller offshoots are healthy and they grow, and that this one source plant will produce many offshoots that we'll be able to spin off plants and share with friends. So after making my cutting, I'm going to get a little bit of potting mix, put it in my pot. I'm going to use the same Q-tip this time to clean inside, make a hole. That's where the plant will go. So here you have two options to go forward with. One, you can propagate by water, which allows you to see the roots to grow and then transplant it so that you can monitor the status a little bit better, or you can put it directly into the soil. I'm going to do soil propagation because these guys are pretty hardy. So to add the rooting hormone, simply dip it into the water and then dip it into the rooting hormone. And then you can place it into either the soil or the water. And afterwards, you're just going to tuck it in. Now, since we don't have any roots, we're going to water it a little bit right away. If you have roots, you might want to let the roots settle in before adding water, because you don't want to compress the soil and hurt the root system. So you give it a day or two to let the roots fit in, and then you do some light watering. Well, that's all there is to it. If you have any questions, leave comments and I'll get to them. Otherwise, I think you're good to go.